Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this giant box here contains the game Epoch. Epoch is, wow, I'm going to try to describe the game to you, and then I'm going to show you how the game is played, then you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. Epoch is a game of honor. It's a game of reclaiming honor. The narrative of the game is that you were a horrible human being, and you were thrown from the boat or the ship, whatever that you were on, and then you washed ashore on this island, and you needed to kind of regain yourself, and you're going to go on an adventure on this island, and you're going to use these different locations to kind of build yourself back up from, like, whatever, you know, horribleness that you were before. It's a little bit of an abstract game, and it sounds like a fantasy game, and technically it is. It is definitely a fantasy themed game, but it took an interesting way to present the story. It wasn't what I expected. I'll fully admit that, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how the game kind of developed as I played it, and I was really, really intrigued by the mechanisms and how the resource of your own personal honor and ability and influence and all these things, like, you know, the way it just presents itself is wonderful, as far as just the way the game is played, but also in kind of the way the words that the game uses in its own, like things like your potential, your influence, your conviction. You know, that's those are the resources that are within you, and you're actually using those to kind of rebuild yourself, right? Like I said, it's going to take a little bit of time to explain it, and I'm going to show you how the game is played, which I'll do right now. But trust me, it'll make sense, hopefully, when I'm done. All right, cool. Let's show you how to play Epoch. Alright, so I've gone ahead and set up the game for 4 players of Epoch. Now, I did take a couple of liberties. For one, all of the tiles that are making up the board have been revealed. Normally, when you're moving your character on the triangles, you don't actually enter the hexes. When you're moving your characters on these triangles, when you enter a spot that you place all these hexes face down, and then you'd reveal them when you get into a spot where you would explore them and reveal them. I've just turned them all over, basically so I can just show you what each of the tiles do. But just keep in mind that at the beginning of the game, you take all the tiles, you shuffle them up, and you place them on the board, or you can place them on the board as you explore, whichever works for you. And then you place them on there, and then when you get there, you then reveal them. Alright, so the other thing is that I've set up for 4 players. I've gone ahead and placed all the 4 cubes. Each person starts with 1 cube each in strength, inspiration, and knowledge. And people that are looking at this can probably see that it is a color wheel. You can see that, you know, red and blue, purple, yellow and red, orange, yellow and blue, green. Alright, so there are also, this game has a fun little mechanism that causes the triggering of the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, you draw 2 of these cards. These are trigger cards that it will trigger when the next end of the round is. So this isn't a game where it's like it lasts 5 rounds. It isn't a game where the first person to a certain number of points wins, anything like that. So in-game trigger of, after a player has acquired a relic, gained an ability, and defeated a monster, the next round becomes the final round. And then in-game trigger, when one monster more than the number of players is defeated, the next round becomes the final round. So you have these different triggers. Now, there's the scoring track that goes around, you know, starts at 10, goes all the way around to 60. Don't worry, you probably aren't going to get above 60 in the game, because of the fact that each time you pass by one of these triggers, usually you'll get another. There are some cases where, you know, like the one that is drawn won't be used. I'll talk about that later. But like, you'll draw more triggers, and so you'll have more and more triggers available to you as the game progresses. And so when a player has acquired 5 or more companions, the next round becomes the final round. Let's just draw one more and show it to you. When one relic more than a number of players has been acquired, the next round becomes the final round. So you can kind of see that as the game progresses, especially as players gain points, it's very likely that they might even reveal a trigger that would cause the end of the game, you know, right then and there, or the beginning of the end of the game. All right, so each player will get one of these player boards, And they're going to put their cubes, 9 of each, on the influence and on the potential, and then none go on the conviction. You're going to try to get them over to conviction, because conviction allows you to control tiles on the board, and also allows you to prevent the death of your companions, which is really important. So like potential is, like just says, useless until it's unlocked. So basically, just think of it this way: you're trying to grow your potential into influence. Influence is able to be used to activate your companions that are following along with you, and also they are used to be placed into these 3 spots over here that allow you to gain attribute strength, inspiration, and knowledge. And then, of course, then you get to combine those into courage, vision, and wisdom. I'll explain how that works in a little bit. So, and it's important to note that once you've unlocked your potential and you've moved, unless you take an action that actually would push it back into potential, which is pretty rare, you probably won't be doing that much at all. Anything that like leaves the board and goes onto the board and comes back to you, or goes onto a companion and comes back to you, will always go back into your influence. So once you've unlocked your potential is yours. Just keep that in mind. All right. So each person is going to get a little player card just to remind you, of what you are. You are a wretched, guilt-ridden scumbag, as it says, which I really like about the game. Each person is going to get a movement card that starts off, you're just walking, so you get 2 movement. Later on, you're able to get, mounts, and so then you get 3 movement, and it's actually worth 3 victory points, or honor, as it's called in the game. Then better mounts, and then finally, if you can get the giant moth that you fly, you can move 5, and then 5. Movement, as I said, is on the triangles on the board. Players, you can move through other players on your movement, but you can't stop in the same spot as somebody. So just keep that in mind as you're moving around the board. At the beginning of the game, each person will be given a journey card. And the journey card will just tell you which location you start. You wash ashore on this spot, and so you find the spot number 1. You place your meeple on that location, and then you place 9 of your blocks in potential, 9 in influence, and 1 each into inspiration, knowledge, and strength. And you are discovered by someone. Randomly draw a blue companion card and place it next to your character and dashboard. So you are going to go over to the companions. I'm just going to draw the top guy here. And here it has Ardrin, the crafty perfectionist. First of all, he's going to be worth 2 honor if I have him at the end of the game. And if I activate him, he's going to give me 2 knowledge that I can spend on something. I'm not going to, so just that's an important thing to know. And then if you do activate him, if you gain control of a location this turn, you gain 2 honor for doing so. You already would gain some for getting control of something, but it's just important to note that is your companion. So you just go ahead and you place him next to your player board like so, and there you go. You got your first guy, and you're ready to go. Now there are, and I didn't put these in there just so you can see them. There are, and these are 3 different companions. These are treachery companions. You notice that they're worth negative honor. And treachery companions, they are located in those things, and they still have the, like 2 wisdom, 2 courage, and 2 inspiration. So you still have those things on there, but their powers are like unlock 1 potential, an adjacent map player must add 1 influence to a companion. Gain 1 conviction, an adjacent map player must downgrade 1 block. So they're kind of mean. This turn you may displace another player on the map. If you do so, gain +2 strength. So you have these like these guys that cost you some honor for having them on your team, but ultimately they are like kind of powerful. So you can add these. You can't draw one of these to begin the game, but you can add these if you want. All right, so now you're ready to roll. And the whole crux of this game is you either activate yourself, which doesn't cost you anything, or you activate one of your companions by placing one of your influence cubes on them. Now, you get the influence cubes back off of your companions by going on, activating different parts on the board. So, and I'll go through the different parts on the board here in just a little bit. But just know that when you move those cubes over to here, it's basically you're using a resource and you're kind of locking it into place until you can do something later to remove it. and move it somewhere else. And that's kind of like the theme of this game. You'll be placing cubes onto locations. You'll be placing them into strength, into wisdom, into all these locations on the board. I mentioned wisdom earlier. I'm sorry. Wisdom is the green. Knowledge is the blue. I apologize. I misspoke earlier. But the big thing is that you're putting them into these spots and you're moving them around. I remember playing a game fairly recently, I think it was Feudum, that kind of had this feel to it, where your resources are just malleable and they just kind of move around the board and they don't really ever get spent. You just kind of alter them and shift them and change them. And I really like that about this game. I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts, but it became almost like an organic feel to it, something that I thought was really, really cool. So ultimately, like the spots on the board that you're activating are all kind of, in a weird way, the same, but they do radically different things, right? So the ones that match up with the yellow, the blue, and the red, and those would be the fort, the spire, and the library. Those locations, by going to those locations and like activating one, because when you, on your turn, what you'll do is you'll choose to either activate yourself or you will choose to activate one of your companions, then you will move, and then you will act on one of the spots that is next to you. Oh, I should mention, before I talk about actually activating the different spots, you can, on the same turn that you activate the location, you can choose to take over that particular spot if you have cubes that are in your conviction, that you've upgraded them into your conviction ability. To do it, you just, if it's an unclaimed spot, you just take one of your cubes and you go ahead and place it on there. And it's an action, and then you can actually use the spot as well. You can technically use the spot and then take it over if you wish, but either is fine. You immediately gain 3 honor when you take control of it, but then if anybody else comes to that spot and uses the location you have, you gain honor again because they're using the location that you have. Now, if somebody decides they want to come over there and they want to take it from you, they can. And what they do is they actually have to spend 2 points. I'm sorry, I grabbed 3 by accident. They would have to spend 3 points, 2 points of conviction to go ahead and do it. They don't leave 2 on there, and then they return 1 to the influence on their spot, and then this cube would return to your location. You don't lose the honor for losing that spot, but the other person would gain 3 honor for taking it over. And you'll be taking control and losing control of a lot of these spots on the board a lot, because one of the really good ways to get honor is to use locations that people want to use and they want to activate. Alright, so now activating either like the library, the spire, or a fort. Now all 3 of these spots are used to take your influence and turn it into that attribute for a time being. Remember that malleable aspect. So if you use the library, you would take 2 influence that you have and you'd place it over into the knowledge location. So now you've used some of that influence you have and you're using it to gain knowledge, with the idea that you're going to be using that knowledge later for some purpose. Like most likely you're going to be using it to convert it into wisdom or convert it into vision, so you'd be able to use those attributes afterwards. Now this is the same exact thing. If you were here, you would put it into inspiration, and if you were in one of these forts, you'd turn it into strength that's over here. Alright, so now before I move on to like the big 3, that like the actual like conversion ones, I want to talk about the other locations. So there is a command post. The command posts on there, and some of these have 2 tiles, like there's 2 libraries, 2 spires, 2 forts. There are 2 command posts. Command posts are here, and you can take control of those like before. If you use 3 points of strength, and like once again those return to influence, you can then upgrade to the next level of mount, and then gain the honor that the next level of mount would give you. You can go to the sacred monastery, and there are 2 of those, and you can find one here and here. Okay, and once again those can be controlled, and you can use 1 knowledge. one of these powers to upgrade one of your blocks. That's one of the ways. So you'd use one of these. If I activate that spot, I'd use one of those. I'd return to knowledge, and then I would take one and I actually increase it into my conviction level. And that's how you get those levels of conviction, so you can take control of those locations. There are abandoned shrines, which you can find here and here. Abandoned shrines is you can use an inspiration, which is the yellow here, to remove up to 2 influence from a companion you control, and you can repeat that process as many times as you want. One of the things, as I said, if you're activating your companions that are really cool and they're giving you lots of these powers and lots of these abilities, eventually there's all this influence over there and you can't use it, so you need to get over to a shrine so you can go ahead and remove 2, you put it back into influence so you can use those again. Now, there is an academy, and there's only one of these. The academy is like right here. Now the academy is a little bit different. You go there and it's just a random roll. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to take this white die, and these, if you notice the white die, it has all of the different like the color wheel that's on the board. It has all those different colors. So if you go there and you activate the academy, you roll the die and you gain one of those. So in this case, you gain wisdom. You'd gain 1 wisdom attribute when you rolled that. If you didn't have one in that attribute when you rolled, so I did in this case, you get to re-roll and roll it again. So then I would get a courage, so I can go ahead and put that there. Now I don't get to keep rolling over. You only get to do the re-roll once. Now if I had rolled, if I had rolled blue, if I'd rolled knowledge, I would have just got another knowledge, but I already have cubes of knowledge, so I wouldn't get that second roll. All right, the final thing that you have is you have the inns, and there are 3 inns. And here's an inn, here's an inn, and here's an inn. Now the inns, you spend 2 inspiration, 2 knowledge, or 2 strength, and then you add a companion of that color to your party. So if you use strength, you draw these. If you do so forth, pretty self-explanatory. So if I was over at this inn, and let's just cheat here, and let's put 1 more in strength, like so. And so I was at that inn, I spent my 2 strength, put those back in influence. I take this companion, see what we get here. Dragoon, the long-forgotten bounty hunter. Add 1 extra influence to Dragoon. This turn, defeating monsters cost. So, he's going to help me defeat monsters. So, just another, and companions are a good idea to have. 1, they give you honor when you grab them. And plus, at the end of the game, when you're going to be judged by how many of each type of thing that you have to establish dominance over it. And that includes control, having these cards that are there, these companion cards. All right, so the big 3, the Arcane Tower, the Gaping Maw, and the Tomb of the Ancients. Now these cannot be controlled. Here's the Gaping Maw, here's the Ancient Tomb, and here's the Arcane Tower. These cannot be controlled, and you need to use 2 so in this case you need to use 2 vision, and as far as the Gaping Maw, you use 2 courage, and for the Ancient Tomb you use 2 wisdom. Now what you can do though with these is that you can collect one of these cards. You can fight a monster at the Gaping Maw, you can collect a trait at the Ancient Tomb, and you can collect a relic at the Arcane Tower. So the big thing is that you either can you can take the one that's face up, and when you discover the location, you turn the first card over so you can see it. So you either take the one that's face up, or you can randomly draw one. So just here, the Lens of Foresight. It's a relic. Place up to 3 influence here. Each turn you may remove 1, and then look at a face-down card, and then you may flip it if you so desire. So, and plus, it's worth 5 honor, so you can have special ability. Traits, kind of the same thing. You spend it, and you gain, after you do it, you gain 2 honor. First of all, once again, it's worth 5 right away. So you have that power or whatever. And then you gain 2 honor for each turn that you use this very same thing. Your wisdom. So you can see like how like synergy, like you can kind of like if you go that route and you keep using your wisdom at different locations and different things that you can do, then you're going to gain more honor for doing so. The last one is probably the coolest one. It's the most fun. It's the monsters. So if you go here and you spend 2 courage, let's just put one on there, and you spend the 2 courage, you can either fight the monster that's here or you can draw one at random. So let's just draw one at random and just see what we get. Now, you spend the 2 courage, you can't lose to the monster. You're going to defeat him, you're going to beat him up, you're going to win. First of all, it's worth 5 honor for defeating the monster. So we have Ogon, the Living Bark. And then roll both dice at game end to gain +2 honor for each of your traits. So if you have traits, you're going to gain bonus honor. Whereas, like, for this guy here, the Lumbering Butterfly Smasher, roll both dice at game end and gain +2 honor for each of your companions. So certain things will give you bonus honor depending on what you have. But you're going to roll both of the dice. So you're going to roll this, and then you're gonna gain this case we would gain a strength, and then you're gonna roll this die, and this is the die that has like something bad can happen to you, and so this is how you can possibly you want to have conviction, because it means that one of your companions could be killed. So let's go ahead and roll and see what we get here. And so we got the circle, and it's a long, grueling fight. So that's what that is. It's a long, grueling fight. The creature causes fatigue for your party. You can add 1 influence to each one of your companions. So you're probably going to be heading back to the the monastery to I'm sorry, not the monastery, the shrine. So you can actually get those guys, get those if you have a lot of companions, to get those cubes off the influence. Now here, if you get on this one right here, this is the death. So you have to choose one of your companions and then remove it from the game. They're killed by the monster, and that's not a good deal, obviously. But you can spend one of your conviction to go ahead and prevent it from happening if that does. Now, this is just a blank, and if you're lucky enough to roll the blank, that means the monster totally missed you, you got lucky, and you didn't lose anything from that battle. Alright, so before I talk about how you figure out who wins, one last thing. So you have these proficiency tiles in each one of these locations. You can acquire a proficiency tile at any time if you have the requisite number of attributes, as long as it's on your turn. And you can do that as long as there's tiles available. These will once again count towards the bonus at the end. So, it's always a good idea, if you can, to grab one of those. And sometimes you'll end up doing it just because you'll have cubes in one of these locations that you just can't get back and to your board. But since you can do it on your turn, and it's just a free action, and you can only do it on your turn, you can only do it once, you can spend those 3 cubes and just take one of these tiles. And that's going to help you increase your mastery that you're using at the end of the game. Alright, so you triggered the end of the game through one of these triggers that's over here. And you're going to determine the mastery of each of these attributes. And so then there's one of these tiles for each color, and these are going to be worth 6 honor points each for each one that you can claim. Now, if you tie, nobody gets anything. But if you can achieve your mastery, you can show it off. So, mastery is determined through the influence that you have on the board. You simply count the number of attributes in the circle on the main board. So, in these, one of those circles, and then plus any cards of that color, plus any proficiency tiles that you have. So you go with these, the cards that you have, and then these tiles here. Remember, these are worth 3. Cards are just worth 1 each, and obviously each cube is worth 1. And so then you hand those out, you go with those bonus victory points or bonus honor, and then whoever at the very end of the game has the most honor will obviously win. This was... I remember when I dove into this game, I kind of came into it thinking it was going to be something that it wasn't, right? And I was very, very pleasantly surprised to discover the depth of this game, and as I said, that kind of organic malleability of your own personal resources. I really enjoyed the whole aspect, the whole building up of your character, but it wasn't like building up like a D&D character, or like, this isn't like, yes, technically it's kind of telling a story as far as like a role-playing game, but it's a little bit abstract. It's a little bit different as far as the presentation of its narrative, but I found it to be a very refreshing change to that narrative of these types of games that just had that same old story that I've just been, going down time and time again. And games that are fun, but just, I needed a breath of fresh air, and this game gave one to me. So let me talk about that in my final thoughts, which I'll do right now. All right, from a very strict mechanism situation, the game is fantastic. I really enjoy so many aspects of it. I've already gushed about the malleability of the resource and the fact that you're not literally going out and gaining any more resources. The resources, the cubes that you have are all the cubes you're ever gonna have. You can't lose them, even if they're on a companion that gets killed. They just return to your board. I mean, you can't lose any part of your soul, if you will. It's just the fact that you're just constantly shifting them back and forth onto the board, off the board, onto a companion, back to you, and I just, oh man, I just really like that. It feels like you're on this soul-searching adventure, if you will. It lends a lot of credence to the theme of the game. I love the triggers. I love the fact that you start off with these game ends and then you reveal more. And I realized I forgot to mention this. So the way the game works is the first person that actually you turn the card over, right? You turn the trigger over, and then the player can look at the old ones, and if they want to, the one that triggered it, if they can look at the old ones, and if they want to, they can go ahead and discard one of those. So it's one of those things where it's if you see somebody's getting close to getting to the end and using one of the old ones, you can take it and you can chuck it and you can get rid of it, and that which is obviously a pretty good power. So I apologize, I forgot to mention that. But I really like that aspect. I mean, every single one of the actions that you do, it just feeds into something else, even if it's just something like increasing your mount. I mean, being able to move around the board more is incredibly powerful in this game. And also, the better mounts are just worth honor, which is kind of cool. You're actually going out there and you've mastered the flying moth, if you will. So then, that's a big deal. So the whole thing about the game, as far as the mechanisms, feeling fun, feeling unique, and then feeding into the theme of the game, really speak to me and really, helped with the immersion in what technically is a pretty abstract game. I mean, this is at its heart a Euro. Yes, it has a couple of dice you're going to roll a little bit, but this isn't your classic, adventure game. Yes, we're on an adventure, but I'm not rolling dice in bucket loads. I'm not, just, getting to the market and buying new weapons for myself. There's all those tropes that we're very, very familiar with in games like this, in this genre. But this one takes it and spins it on an ear, and as I said, it is just a breath of fresh air. It's one of those games where I think it's going to kind of tweener, and it's going to help bring a lot of people to the table. The people that are going to want your big epic fantasy story type game are going to want to play it because of what it's doing, and people that are want that Euro strategy, figuring out, hey, do I move here and I take those two cubes and I put them onto that spot, and so then I can go here and take those two cubes, move them over here, all those actions like that. And planning out a long turn, getting your synergies together, they're going to want to play it too, and I couldn't have been happier with my plays of this one. My gaming group loved it. I really, really loved it, and I strongly suggest that if you are a fan of area control, cube, resource management, but also enjoy a nice, good storyline, a nice, good adventure storyline as well, and a reclamation of your soul type game, which I don't know how many of those games are out there, but definitely this is something unique and something fun, and I really strongly suggest checking it out. So if you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for your time, and until next time, I'm the Undead Viking telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.